In a recent legal development, a federal jury in Dallas awarded nearly $100 million to the family of Botham Jean, who was fatally shot in his apartment by former police officer Amber Guyger in 2018. Now, the jury found that Guyger used excessive force and violated Botham John's constitutional rights, leading to a $98.65 million verdict. Now, this case has been pivotal discussions about racial bias and police accountability. Guyger, who is white, entered John's apartment, mistaking it for her own, and then shot him as he ate ice cream on his couch. She was subsequently convicted of murder in 2019 and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. So let's talk about this, right? And before we talk about this further, if you're new to the channel, uh, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Also hit the like button. Support the channel. We're trying to get to 5,000 subs by the end of the year. Any and all support through Cash App, PayPal, uh, any and all support through a subscription is highly appreciated. And let's get right down to business. So, as stated earlier, a federal jury awarded $98,650,000 in damages to the family and estate of Botham Jean, who was killed by former Dallas police officer Amber Guyger in his apartment in 2018. About 3 hours after deliberation, jurors found that Guyger used excessive force in shooting and killing Jean, the 26-year-old accountant and Guyger's upstairs neighbor, when Guyger said she mistakenly went into his apartment and mistook him for an intruder. And again, how could you not know what your apartment looks like when, as a police officer, you're taught to pay attention to detail? No different than people in the military get taught, right? Not only you're taught to pay attention to detail, but you also are taught to maintain situational awareness at all times. So I don't understand, how could you not know what your apartment looks like? I've worked 12-hour shifts before. Matter of fact, when I was in the military, I worked 12-hour shifts for damn near 4 years. And I know what my apartment looks like when I go home. Hell, when I was deployed for 9 months, didn't see my house for 9 months on deployment. And I'm still able to take my butt home because I know what my home looks like. So you mean to tell me after that shift that you was working, you didn't know what your house looked like? Okay. Anyway, the jury also found that Guyger was acting in her capacity as an officer when she shot John and violated his constitutional rights by unreasonably using deadly force. The jury awarded $10.25 million to John's estate for his pain, loss of life, and earnings, $14.2 million to each his mother and father for their past and future loss and mental anguish, and $60 million in punitive damages to Guyger. John's mother, Allison Jean, said despite the sadness, the verdict symbolizes that the jury recognized her son's value in the world. Over the course of the 3-day trial, the jury heard testimony from Botham Jean's family and experts to help bolster the plaintiff's case that Guyger was unreasonable in her use of force. She was convicted of murder in 2019, currently served a 10-year prison sentence. She had no attorney in the case, and she waived the right to be present at trial. Now, we also saw that Amber Guyger tried to have a retrial of the case. That got denied. On a couple of occasions, she tried to get parole for this case, and in both occasions, that parole got denied. Now, plaintiff's attorney Dale Washington called it an insult for Guyger to choose to not be present at the trial. Attorneys did not explain how Guyger would be able to pay the damages while she's in prison with no assets. But Washington and the John family said it's not about money, but accountability. They wanted to make sure that when Amber Guyger is released from prison, that Amber Guyger is not going to have a life. She's not going to have a normal life. She's not going to be able to capitalize on any fame that she may have gotten from this case. So in other words, she tries to get like some kind of book deal or tries to associate with a producer to do a movie the way she can make money off of it, well, that money is going to go to the Botham Jean estate. So she's not going to have an opportunity to capitalize off of it. It's already bad enough she's only doing 10 years in prison. So if she's not going to do time for the rest of her life in prison, well, at least we're going to give her some kind of financial hell that she's going to have to go through. Because it's going to be a financial nightmare for Amber Guyger. It is. Let's keep this 100. Guyger said, quote unquote, I thought it was my apartment 19 times during the 911 call, but what she didn't say was that Botham Jean had a gun or was charging at her. Now, Washington told jurors that he said Guyger changed the story after she got an attorney. She testified at the criminal trial that Botham Jean charged at her when she entered his apartment, and she ordered him to put his hands up before shooting. That Guyger and another Dallas police officer testified that the Dallas Police Department general orders state that officers are always on the job, which attorneys said showed that Guyger was acting in her professional capacity when she shot Botham Jean. Now, according to testimony from crime scene expert Michael Maloney, Botham Jean likely did not pose a threat to Guyger in the way she described it. Based on the scene and his autopsy, John was likely getting up from his couch when he was shot. Botham did nothing that would justify Amber's use of force. Now, the city of Dallas was initially included as a defendant in the lawsuit. The John family accused the Dallas Police Department of showing a pattern of excessive force amongst its police officers and failing to adequately train Guyger on the use of force. But then the city was ultimately dismissed from the lawsuit after U.S. District Judge Barbara Lynn ruled the plaintiffs failed to sufficiently prove that their claims against the city and the Dallas Police Department. Now, the John family and the attorney said the city still should have been liable for the actions of the officers. Now, Botham Jean was a Harding University graduate born in St. Lucia. He worked as an accountant for Price Waterhouse Coopers, and his pastor, Sammy Berry, testified that John had hopes at becoming a partner at the firm. Now, John's family remember him as dedicated to his faithful love and joy and love for others. Allison John says she'll continue his legacy through a foundation in his name established after his death. And the fact that this woman had the audacity to try to get parole. Good morning to you, Belinda. It's good to see you. The fact that this woman tried to get parole after only 5 years, it's laughable and it's disgusting. I'll never forget that moment where you had Botham Jean's brother gave her a hug, and then that mammy judge gave her a hug too, and a Bible. Now, me personally, I think she should do the rest of her life in prison. But we're not going to get that. She's only going to get 10 years. But at the very least, she is going to face massive financial difficulty for the rest of her life. If we can't get her in the prison cell for the rest of her life, well, we're going to put her through financial hell for the rest of her life. $100 million, she's going to literally be working for the rest of her life, unless she strikes the lottery, right? So I feel nothing for Amber Guyger. I feel absolutely nothing for Amber Guyger. That's what she decided to do, right? Not paying attention to detail, not maintaining situational awareness as a police officer, right? I mean, something should have went off of her head that when she went into the apartment and there's a black man sitting there on the couch eating a bowl of ice cream, that maybe, just maybe, this is not my apartment. And apparently she had a dog, right? Now, normally when someone comes into the home, the first thing that you will see is the dog, because the dog would either be waiting at the door or the dog would greet you at the door. And if the dog did not show up to greet you at the door, wagging his tail, wanting to play and all this other stuff, being happy to see you, then that should have sent alarm bells off right then. That may not be my apartment. Now, what's left out is now they might have mentioned it during the trial, but she was carrying on a sexual relationship with a dude that was married too. And what wasn't covered also, not at least not in this article, but this girl's a racist. So good on the judge for slapping this woman with a massive lawsuit. Then didn't even have enough class to show up for the hearing. Mm-mm-mm. You guys let me know what y'all think about this case here. Once again, Amber Guyger got slapped with a $100 million lawsuit, and that she's going to have to fight tooth and nail to come up with that money. Mm-mm-mm. You guys let me know what y'all think. If you're not subscribed to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and share these videos on your social media platforms. Last but definitely not least, shouts out to the mighty LDBC. This your man. Scream at me. Ho!